Alistair Darling said today his split with Gordon Brown over the deficit was so obvious it hampered Labour at last year's election. The former Chancellor attacked his former leader on two fronts, the personal and the political. In his memoirs and in a television interview to promote them, he described a brutal regime that could be deeply unpleasant. And on the vital economic question, Darling said Gordon Brown ignored the scale of the fiscal crisis, leaving Labour without a credible economic policy. Katie Razzle reports.
By now, even Gordon Brown himself must almost have got used to having his reputation trashed, so many of his former colleagues have rounded on him in books. The latest Alistair Darling interviewed on the BBC this morning.
It was deeply unpleasant. I mean, I really don't mind and relish, attacking Tories and them attacking me. That's the stuff of politics. What is so debilitating is when your own lot are doing it to you.
Briefings against him by the Brownite cabal, his words, at their most vicious when Mr Darling gave an interview to The Guardian back in 2008. He said economic conditions were arguably the worst they'd been in 60 years. Remember, at this point, Gordon Brown believed the downturn would last just 6 months. The PM was livid about the interview. His supporters launched anonymous attacks on his Chancellor. Alistair Darling's memoirs are being serialised in the Sunday Times. The former Chancellor says his book, Back from the Brink, is primarily his take on the banking crisis. But in it, Gordon Brown's sometimes appalling behaviour is laid bare. Mr Darling describes a fairly brutal regime, set in train by the cancer that grew from the Brown-Blair feud. Soon after Gordon Brown replaced Tony Blair, he says, a permanent air of chaos and crisis permeated government. He says economic disagreements between the Treasury and Downing Street were so intense that his 2009 budget was only signed off when he got in the car. Gordon Brown determined the way to beat the Tories was to pitch Labour as investors, Conservatives as cutters.
If you don't have a credible economic policy, you are simply not at the races. And our problem was it was so blindingly obvious to the outside world that the two of us, Gordon and myself, were at odds.
It's very clear that a few changes might well have got Labour back into government, probably in coalition. And the kinds of changes that were required are the kinds of things that Alistair wanted. A much more credible economic policy going forward, and also a greater degree of honesty with the public.
Good to see you. Hello, good to see you.
Of course, if someone had ousted Gordon Brown, Labour's lot might have been different. And if he was as bad as so many say, why didn't they? James Purnell resigned from the cabinet early last year. Soon after that, the memoirs say Mr Darling had a secret meeting with David Miliband, then the likely frontrunner for leader. But instead of a coup, they soldiered on.
Perhaps we should have done something. But, as I say in the book, why did I do it? And Fred, for me, despite everything, and, if Gordon's listening to this, he may find it difficult to believe, I had a residual loyalty, which I found very difficult to overcome. We go back a long, long way.
So why does any of this still matter? The arguments, the disagreements, many of which went on in the building behind me, are all in the past now, except for this. The credible economic policy that Alistair Darling says he wanted involved setting out a robust plan to cut the deficit. Instead, Gordon Brown vetoed any specification of where cuts might fall. And that position still appears Labour Party policy today.
Labour are opposing every reduction that we've proposed on public spending, and they're even proposing unfunded tax cuts as well, and denying the deficit.
Alistair Darling disagrees with the Conservatives' deficit-cutting plans, but his memoirs are a reminder that his own party still hasn't laid out how it would cut spending.